Not all is well in the glamour world. More than 11,000 film and television writers went on a strike since their pay does not match the revenue generated in the streaming era. Late-night TV screens have also gone blank, as the largest strike by the Writers Guild of America since 2007 has now disrupted operations of popular shows. The famous TV shows which were impacted by the strike include The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and Jimmy Kimmel live on ABC. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and Late Night with Seth Meyers have also been affected, resulting in reruns. The impact of the strike is significant not only for the entertainment industry, but also for the viewers who are missing their favorite shows. This is a first of its kind strike during the streaming era, and the 11,000 members of the Writers Guild of America went on strike on Tuesday, sending hundreds in Los Angeles and New York to picket lines outside major studios such as Amazon, Netflix, Paramount, and even Warner Brothers instead of their writers' room. Writers are arguing that the rise of the online streaming era has left them behind, leading to worse pay and less stable work, and demanding new rules for how studios use artificial intelligence in film and television writing. Here's a report.
Thousands of Hollywood film and TV writers are set to go on strikes after a midnight deadline passed without an agreement over higher pay from studios. It ends 15 years without a labor dispute in an industry grappling with changes sparked by the boom in TV streaming around the globe. The strike will likely throw studio productions into turmoil. Late-night shows are expected to immediately stop. The last strike of the Writers Guild of America lasted 100 days in 2007 and 2008 and cost the economy of California an estimated $2.1 billion as production shut down and out-of-work writers, actors, and producers cut back spending. Studios don't want another disruption after the COVID-19 pandemic halted production around the globe for months. But budgets are tight and studios have laid off thousands of employees while cutting spending. Late on Monday, the group that represents studios like Disney and Netflix said it had offered what it called generous increases in compensation in negotiation with the Guild. However, it said the primary sticking points were proposals that, quote, would require a company to staff a show with a certain number of writers for a specified period of time, whether needed or not. The Writers Guild said in a statement that companies' behavior had, quote, created a gig economy inside a union workforce. According to Guild statistics, half of TV series writers now work at minimum salary levels compared to a third nearly a decade ago. The WGA also wants safeguards to prevent studios from using AI to generate new scripts from writers' previous work, and to ensure they are not asked to rewrite draft scripts created by AI. Further ahead, a protracted strike could lead to a delay of the fall TV season. Writing for fall shows normally starts in May or June.
All right, U.S. journalist Reed Alexander, who's the entertainment business correspondent with Insider, joins me live with the latest. Reed, thank you for joining in on News 18 Global. Now, let's talk about the length of this strike first. How long is it expected to last?
Well, it's anybody's guess right now. You talk to different people involved in striking or picketing outside some of the studios that you mentioned before, and everybody has a different feeling on this in terms of the length. But everybody that I've spoken to in the past 24 hours seems to think this will drag on for some time, which could worsen, which could exacerbate the impact for consumers who want to see some of their favorite shows. I spoke to one entertainment lawyer who said that now that the trade association that represents the studios has tumbled over the cliff and the WGA has decided to strike, the incentive for the studios to meet them at the table to avoid a strike is gone. So both sides seem dug in, and it does feel like it's going to take a while before we get a resolution.
Right. Having said that, Alexander, there's a lot of talk about the late night TV shows going dark. Would the strike have made such an impact had these shows not, in fact, gone blank?
It would have done. I think it would have done, because that's only one aspect of the entertainment economy. And quite frankly, it's sort of a shrinking aspect of the entertainment economy. It is a legacy part of entertainment television. And I think a lot of people know the late night shows and the reach they have because they've been on television for so many decades. But the truth of the matter is the real pain is going to come in the way of streaming and other kinds of pre-tape shows rather than daily shows. There are a lot of programs and episodes that are saved up by the studios to release over the summer. But once we get past that point, I think that's when you're going to start to see log jams forming in the delivery of new content. And I think that the impact that the writers are making out in Los Angeles goes far beyond the very small proportion or small number that work on the late night shows.
Right. It's interesting you mentioned the preparations to combat this strike. The Paramount CEO has in fact commented on the impact of this writers' strike. He says that consumers really won't notice anything for a while. The studio has a slate of new releases, a large library and offshore production to get through the strike. Will this now give the strike a purpose? I'm sure a lot depends on the length of this strike then.
I think that's right. A lot depends on the length of the strike. We are in a different world than we were 15 years ago in the last strike, which went on for 100 days, 3 months, a quarter of the year. And it had an enormously disruptive, in fact, devastating impact on what we call the delivery. So the production of new content that reaches consumers. You know, in regards to what the CEOs of the streamers are saying, the CEO of Netflix said something similar. He said, we have such a big, what's called a library of content. So shows that just exist that you can watch anytime, and a stockpile of shows to come, that the CEO of Netflix said that he believed their service was best set up to get through this. At the end of the day, look, the leaders of these organizations are going to telegraph whatever they can say going into the strike to allay consumers' concerns, combat a phenomenon called churn, which is where you or I might cancel our streaming subscriptions because, quite frankly, there's nothing we want to watch. And, you know, send a message to the writers, which is, we're good. We can ride this out for months if necessary. Whereas the hope on the part of the group that represents the streamers and studios is that the writers won't be able to sustain this siege, that they will run out of money and have to relent.
Right. That's a very interesting discussion, Reed. I'm not going to let you go anywhere because I have a couple of reactions that have also come in. Let's listen in to these reactions before we continue with our discussion.
President Biden is a strong supporter of workers' rights to strike. We've said this over and over again as we've been asked when different entities, and you see workers strike in those different entities. We've been very clear. He has worked to bolster workers' rights, including through appointing a strong leadership team at the NLRB and through his efforts to advance the PRO Act. Again, we encourage both sides to stay at the table, but we are always very mindful.
I support my writers, but we have a lot of staff and crew that will be affected by this, but they got to get a fair deal. So, I'll do whatever I can to support them, and hopefully there is no strike and they can figure out a deal. I need my writers. I need them real bad. You need your writers. Yeah, I got no show without my writers.
All right, Alexander, you heard what Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary of the White House, has to say. Can the U.S. government make a difference over here in this situation?
Not really. I mean, the California government is trying. It's very painful for California's economy, thinking on sort of a more local basis. California, the largest state in the United States, this cost California 15 years ago, $2 billion in lost revenue. And frankly, it could be much, much worse than that this time around. So there are efforts by government officials to do exactly what Karine Jean-Pierre was just saying, which is encourage both sides to stay at the table. But really, the only people that can make a difference here are the negotiators for the two counterparties. We have the Writers Guild of America on one side and this trade association, which is called the Alliance for Motion Picture and Television Producers, on the other side. They're the only ones that really have a voice here.
Right. Now, writing for the movies might seem glamorous, but it's not in the age of streaming. That is what the Writers Guild is contending. Why so?
Because it's become more challenging to have a sustainable career as a movie writer. I have been involved with the entertainment industry for 15 years, since the last strike, even before the last strike. And I remember conversations years ago where television and film writers would talk about making $500,000, $600,000 US salaries every single year. I spoke to one writer yesterday who told me that when she sold her first show to a television network, she sold it for $100,000. But after taxes and commissions were taken out, she took home just $40,000 US over the course of 3 years. So it's about $13,000 US a year, which is not a sustainable living wage in this country by any measure. So writers are contending that even though the outside world may look at their profession and think they're doing so well, it's really hard to afford the cost of living, especially in New York and California, which are very expensive places to live.
Reed, I'm running short of time. I give you 15 seconds. How is technology now proving to be a threat for the writers? Because there's a lot of concern being expressed with regards to the advent of artificial intelligence.
The bottom line is writers don't want to hear that they're being kicked out because a computer can do their job. And that is a huge part of this fight.